Welcome to Political Perspectives with the Washington Examiner. If you're following us on YouTube, please click like or subscribe down below. I'm Jim Antle, and I'm joined today by Chief Political Correspondent Byron York. Byron, you've called this news story about a group chat involving all the top members of President Trump's national security team, the signal mess. What do we know?
Well, we're finding out more by the hour almost. I mean, this is the first big classic Washington brouhaha of the second Trump administration. And what we know now, as we speak, is the Atlantic Monthly has released texts that it says show that Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth posted war plans in a group text on the commercially available encrypted app Signal before the United States struck the Houthis in Yemen on March the 15th. So this would be bad thing. He released classified information. So to go back to a couple of days when this first comes out, Jeffrey Goldberg, the top editor of The Atlantic, writes this story. And it's really an insane, fantastical story in which a number of top national security officials of the Trump administration, and we're talking the Secretary of State, the Secretary of Defense, the intelligence chiefs, the Vice President of the United States, are all together on a group text started by the National Security advisor, Mike Waltz, and they're discussing whether they should actually go ahead and attack the Houthis. And somehow, in addition to all those very big, important people, also included on the text was Jeffrey Goldberg, the editor-in-chief of The Atlantic. And to this day, we don't know how Goldberg got onto this text thread, but he says he thought it might be a fake, a trick, some sort of thing, but he watched it. And as the officials went along and debated this, it got more serious. And then finally on the 15th, U.S. forces attacked. And just prior to that, a few hours prior to that, Hegseth had sent a note to all the other participants, which unfortunately included Jeffrey Goldberg, saying that they would be using F-18s, in other words, fighter aircraft with crews as opposed to missiles or drones, and when the attack would happen, and that sort of thing. So, big, controversy comes around, and the real question, there are two or three real questions. One is, how in the world did Jeffrey Goldberg end up on this text thread? I mean, you have to remember, the Atlantic Monthly is maybe the leading magazine of the resistance, and as an institution, the Atlantic Monthly hates Donald Trump and wants him to fail. So it's not immediately clear why the editor would be included in this. And then the second thing was there any classified information? Hegseth denied it. A lot of people denied it. And then not long before we're talking, Jeffrey Goldberg came out and published some of this stuff. Doesn't say that it was classified, but it's the kind of stuff that would be classified. So that's where we are right now.
So Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard and CAA Director John Ratcliffe have already had to testify before Congress on this. Let's take a listen to what they had to say.
So my communications, to be clear, in a Signal message group were entirely permissible and lawful and did not include classified information.
Senator, 2 points here. First of all, there's a difference between inadvertent release versus
careless and sloppy,
malicious leaks of classified information. The second point is there was no classified information that was on
the Information Committee should get that information.
Director Patel,
my time's about out, and I'm going to use my.
So Byron, even though they've denied that there's classified information in this conversation, it certainly seems like it's highly sensitive information, and that there's a certain degree of semantics about whether war plans and attack plans and what these things mean. Isn't there a lot of scrutiny that some of these officials are now facing?
Well, they are from Congress, but you have to remember Republicans control the House and the Senate. And one thing that's really pretty true is the party in power, their representatives in Congress don't really do much oversight. So I would not expect aggressive oversight from Republicans in the House or the Senate about this. They would go along with some Democratic requests, but not with others. Now, there's a legal question. Uh, did somebody break the law in making some disclosures on a non-secure or non-government platform like Signal? And I believe there's already been a lawsuit filed about this, of course, because it's the Trump administration, so you got to have a lawsuit.
Of course.
So they will be facing that level of scrutiny, but you have to think with a Republican House, a Republican Senate, and a Republican Justice Department, maybe that's not going to be that severe.
So another decision maker in all of this is obviously President Trump. Trump is so far defending his officials. Let's take a listen to what he had to say about his national security advisor.
He's a very good man. That man is a very good man right there that you criticize so strongly. He's a very good man, and he will continue to do a good job. In addition to him, we had very good people in that meeting, and those people have done a very, very effective job.
So Byron, as long as the president is sort of still on board with everybody involved with this group chat, at least it seems for now, there probably won't be any heads rolling or any consequences or anything like that.
Yeah, and so certainly for the first 3 days of this, Mike Waltz, the national security advisor, has come out as good as he can inside the White House because the president is still expressing real support for him. Now, there are some people who think maybe that could change because the president really, really doesn't like The Atlantic.
Right.
The Atlantic has posted articles. They're the ones who did the famous losers story
Suckers.
about Trump allegedly speaking ill of American war dead during a visit to France. Suckers and losers, I believe, was what was quoted, and that was denied just all around. And then they did a story about how Trump was Hitler. They've done a lot of those.
Right.
They did a story about Trump allegedly stiffing a Gold Star family. I mean, they've just done all sorts of stuff. And
Jeffrey Goldberg has written a number of these stories himself.
And
Yeah.
he has operated, I think, in the Trump years on around the outer edges of credibility with these sensational, damaging stories that really can't be verified. Now, this one, he does have these texts because he was included on the list. So if there's something more to it that he doesn't have, perhaps we'll see it. But you do have to take seriously this question of, was this classified information, and is that a big deal?
So does this story go away in a couple of days? I mean, we know in the Trump era, the news cycle tends to move really quickly, no matter how significant any given story seems at the time. Or is there going to be this steady drip of new information coming out?
Well, I think there were some people who thought it might go away after 24 hours, and it didn't do that. But clearly what we've seen in the first Trump administration, and really on steroids in the second Trump administration, is that new news comes along and pushes off whatever the big story was yesterday, pushes that off to the side. So I would kind of expect that we would see that again, although we haven't actually had that story yet. But, next week is Tariff Week, Liberation Day on April 2nd, as the president calls it. So, a lot of news is kind of scheduled already to happen, just beyond the news that just kind of pops up. So, my guess is it won't really last that long, unless the president himself begins to kind of change his mind about what happened and about his national security advisor. And I will tell you, a lot of people are still very curious of all the people in the world, how Jeffrey Goldberg ended up on this really high level text chain. And it's not just Democrats who want to find out. There are a lot of MAGA supporters who are kind of suspicious of Mike Waltz. They think he's a neocon holdout or something like that. And so they suspect something, kind of funky going on there. And the sooner, and Waltz has said, listen, I don't know Jeffrey Goldberg. I haven't communicated with him. I'm not a source for him. I'm not any of that. This was some sort of weird technical snafu. Well, maybe it was, but it'd be really better if we could actually find out what it was.
Right. And, during the first term, there was a lot of turnover in the Trump team. It's possible that now that Trump has the team that he really wants, it's very early. We don't have any real test cases of this yet. Maybe this will be the first one. But it's possible that Trump will be a little bit more forgiving, given that he has people who he views as loyal currently on staff.
Well, it wouldn't be a bad idea. And now, you can replace a national security advisor who doesn't have to go through Senate confirmation. Replacing a Secretary of Defense is a lot harder. You have to get him through the Senate. So clearly, Democrats would love to see somebody have to resign or be fired in this. So conversely, Donald Trump would love to not do those things and not give the Democrats what they want.
Thank you, Byron.
Thank you, Jim.
And thank all of you for joining Political Perspectives with the Washington Examiner. Again, please click like and subscribe down below. I'm Jim Antle, in for Hugo Gurdon. Please join us again next week.